The cameras were rolling, the fans were screaming, and the world thought they were watching just another military enlistment ceremony. But what they didn't see, what no headline dared to mention, was the silent storm brewing behind Eun Woo's calm smile. Because somewhere in that crowd, hidden far from the blinding lights, stood the one woman who had stolen his heart, Moon Jae-young. They weren't supposed to meet, not here, not today. Yet in that fleeting moment when their eyes locked, time stopped, secrets resurfaced, and an unspoken promise bound them together in a way no distance could break. This wasn't just a farewell. It was the beginning of a story neither of them could escape. Eun Woo stood at the side entrance of the quiet parking lot, the night air cool against his skin as the city lights blinked distantly. His military enlistment date was only hours away, but his mind wasn't on the ceremony, the uniform, or the duties ahead. It was on one person, Moon Jae-young. She had not been seen in public for weeks, and rumors said she had been avoiding him ever since that mysterious argument on set 2 months ago. Yet here he was, clutching a small paper bag in his hands, waiting for her to arrive. Like this was the most important meeting of his life. The sound of heels against the pavement cut through the silence. He turned, and there she was, Moon Jae-young, her hair loosely tied, a faint trace of exhaustion on her face, but her eyes sharper than ever. She stopped a few feet from him, looking at him as though she had been rehearsing this moment, but still wasn't ready for it. "You called me," she said quietly, her voice low but steady. "I had to," he replied, his tone trembling despite his effort to stay calm. "I couldn't leave without seeing you." She hesitated, then stepped closer. The streetlight caught her features, and for a second, he was back on the set of True Beauty, back when she would laugh at his awkward jokes and they would share late-night takeout after filming. But tonight, her laughter was gone. "I didn't know if you wanted me to come," she admitted. "After everything." Eun Woo shook his head. "I don't care about everything. I just needed to see you one last time before." His voice caught, and he quickly looked down, pretending to adjust the bag in his hands. "What's in there?" she asked, nodding toward it. He handed it to her without a word. Inside was a neatly folded scarf, the same one she had once lent him during a cold winter shoot years ago. She ran her fingers over the fabric slowly, her lips parting as if to say something, but no sound came out. "I kept it all this time," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Whenever I wore it, I thought of you, even when I tried not to." Her eyes glistened, and she looked away quickly, as if the weight of his words was too much to hold. "You shouldn't make this harder than it already is," she murmured. "I'm not trying to make it harder," he said, taking a step closer until there was barely a breath of space between them. "I'm trying to tell you that no matter what people think, no matter what's been said, you're still—" He stopped, swallowing the lump in his throat. "You're still the one person I can't forget." She froze, her fingers tightening on the scarf. The city noise seemed to fade into nothing, and for a moment, it was just them in a world that didn't exist beyond the circle of light around them. "You'll be gone for 2 years, she finally said. "What if I'm not here when you come back?" "Then I'll find you," he said instantly. "Even if you're halfway across the world, even if you're with someone else, I'll still find you." Her lips trembled, and he thought he saw a tear threaten to fall, but she blinked it away before it could escape. She took a small step forward, close enough for him to feel the faint warmth of her breath in the cold night. "Do you want to know what I would have said to you back then?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said without hesitation. She looked directly into his eyes, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I never stopped waiting for you." The words hit him like a tidal wave, breaking through every wall he had tried to build around himself. For a brief second, he thought of holding her, of saying everything he'd been keeping in, but the reality of the ticking clock reminded him that time was slipping away. Instead, he reached out and took her hand, holding it tightly, as if letting go would mean losing her forever. They stood like that, in silence, the weight of unspoken promises heavy in the cool night air. When a car horn sounded in the distance, she slowly pulled her hand back. "You should go," she said softly. "They're waiting for you." He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave hers. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you won't disappear again." She didn't answer right away, but after a long moment, she gave a faint nod. Only if you promise you'll come back. A faint smile touched his lips, but his eyes betrayed the ache in his chest. I promise. And as he walked away, the scarf still warm from her hands wrapped around his neck, he knew this was a goodbye neither of them would ever truly accept. The farewell ceremony was crowded, the air filled with camera flashes, reporters shouting questions, and fans holding banners with his name in bold letters. Eun Woo stood at the center of it all, dressed in his uniform, every inch the picture of composure, at least on the outside. Inside, every step he took toward the stage felt heavier. Every word from the officials around him faded into a blur. He had smiled for photos, bowed politely, and given the expected thank you speech. But his eyes kept scanning the sea of faces, not for his fans, not for his colleagues, but for one person who wasn't supposed to be here. Moon Jae-young. She had promised she wouldn't disappear, but she had also promised nothing else. And yet, deep in his chest, he hoped she had come. That maybe she was standing somewhere far from the main crowd, hidden from the glaring cameras, just to see him one last time before the long silence began. The event moved on quickly. Official handshakes, a salute, and the final words before the officers called for him to prepare to leave. He was walking off stage when something caught his eye. Not in the front row, not near the screaming fans, but beyond the barriers, a figure in a long beige coat, hair tucked behind her ears, standing perfectly still as the chaos swirled around her. It was her. The sight hit him so suddenly that he stopped mid-step. A few photographers noticed, snapping pictures, thinking he had spotted a family member or a special guest. But no one else knew the truth. The officers were gesturing for him to keep moving, but he didn't. His eyes locked with hers across the distance, and in that split second, the noise, the crowd, and the flashing cameras melted into nothing. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She simply looked at him, and in her eyes, he read everything they hadn't said that night in the parking lot. Every unspoken feeling, every fear, every promise they hadn't dared to put into words. The officers grew impatient, guiding him toward the waiting vehicle. He broke eye contact only when he absolutely had to, his heart pounding against his ribs as if it wanted to reach her first. When he finally climbed into the vehicle, he glanced toward the window, but she was gone. His fingers clenched tightly on his knees, frustration and longing twisting inside him. Did she leave because she couldn't bear to watch him go, or because she wanted him to remember her exactly like that, standing still in the middle of the storm, eyes filled with something too powerful for words? As the vehicle started moving, he pressed his hand against the glass, looking out at the crowd disappearing behind him. He wasn't sure if anyone else noticed, but he felt it, that fleeting, impossible moment when two people say goodbye without moving their lips, without touching, without even being close. The scarf was folded neatly inside his bag, hidden away from the world. He had decided the night before to bring it with him to the barracks. It was the only piece of her he could take with him, the only proof that the world they had shared, their world, still existed. That night, when the ceremony coverage aired on television, fans replayed the clip of Eun Woo stopping on stage, his eyes fixed on something or someone beyond the cameras. The internet buzzed with theories. Some claimed it was a childhood friend. Others thought it was a relative. But a few sharp-eyed fans swore they saw Moon Jae-young's silhouette in the background, just for a moment, before it vanished. None of them would ever know the truth. But he did. And as the barracks door closed behind him, his last thought before the military routine began was not about his career, his fame, or his future. It was about her, waiting, somewhere out there.